What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Forge to Win podcast. Today, I have Andrew SCHLAG. Is that right? Andrew?
That's right.
Yeah, Andrew SCHLAG and Leo Valentino. Now, these guys bring a ton of energy, and I'm super excited to have both of you guys on. Typically, it's just a one-on-one. Now we get the trifecta. And guys, these guys are doing really big things in the real estate space. They've got a real estate company doing multiple transactions all over the nation. Not only are they doing multiple transactions all over the nation, but they are really specialized in how do you systemize and then how do you create predictability in your business and gradually watch it grow. And so if you guys are out there and you're like, hey man, what does things look like today? Like how are people building their business today? Both Andrew and Leo are going to be able to just kind of share their story, what they're doing, how they've created this predictable to really in uncertain times bring certainty and achieve that freedom that we're all looking for here in real estate. And so I'm super, super excited. The other thing that they do is they have walked other people. And this is why I'm really excited to have them. They have walked, I don't know the exact number, we'll get into it, but they have walked a significant amount of other people through the same step-by-step process of what it looks like to create that certainty, that security, that trust in that my business will take care of me, whether I want to travel, whether I want to do other things. So this is going to be a super special episode as we jump in. Andrew, Leo, welcome to Forge to Win. How are you guys doing?
Amazing. So good to be here with you, Ronnie. And man, we're excited about, frankly, the shifting market, everything that's happened. And most importantly, if you're in a place like your listeners here are, forged to win, in a place to level up and get to a new place and have your mindset where it needs to be, there's phenomenal opportunities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Leo?
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. We're super excited, and we're us three all here. It's a trifecta. We're all educators, and everyone who's listening right now, whether you're driving or in the work and doing a workout or even at home, make sure to take a lot of notes. You're going to get a lot of good stuff from this podcast.
Absolutely, guys. And as you go through, as you guys hear some nuggets that they drop, feel free to stop it, rewind, re-listen to it, and jump in. So Leo, I'm going to start off with you. Behind you, you have a sign that says, if you guys can't see it, or if you're watching this on YouTube, just look over his, I believe, left shoulder, and at least left to me. It says offer term. This is your real estate company, what you got going on. So unpack what your actual real estate investment company looks like today. Like, what are you guys doing? What does it look like? Unpack that so people know what that looks like, man.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the name, offer term. We came up with this because when I first started in real estate, I'm only 19 years old. I graduated high school last year, and I just jumped right into real estate instead of going to college. That was kind of the route that I chose, and it's what I educate on as well. But offer term, when you start with no money and you learn about how to get into real estate, all the fears that come up, right? Hey, I don't have enough money to get into this. The market's, so much is happening with the market. How do I even know what to do? When you learn about the creative model, right? Sub 2, using terms, buying with terms, that changes your whole entire perspective of entrepreneurship, right? Creative entrepreneurship, but real estate in general, being able to dive in without using your own money. And when I had met Andrew, which you're going to hear a lot about in this podcast, he mentored me with how I can dive into real estate without using my own money. And that's what we did. And when I first started in real estate, again, no money. And 2, 3, 4 months later, working with Andrew, we've bought over $1 million worth of real estate. So being able to say that, I think, being able to pitch terms to sellers, which you're going to learn a lot about. And I want to throw it back to Andrew because he's the master of teaching this type of stuff. He's mentored me throughout this process.
And I'll add to that. And thank you, Leo. And I'll say for all the listeners, it's a simple shift of your thought process. And that's something when Leo and I partnered up. Leo is a prime example of the tenacity of someone who's 19, an amazing smart and phenomenal hearted human being, but someone who attracts success, I call it, because, I have had students coming to me and they're come to a live event, or they've had some training, or they've been through a seminar, and they're going, this just don't work for me. And it wasn't that the information didn't work. It's that sometimes we're not in a place to put it to work. And Leo is so good at not only doing that, but also teaching that, which we'll talk more about that and how we partnered up in that in a moment. But when it comes to the terms business, I started nearly a decade ago. I was 21 years old and flat broke, over $80,000 in debt from a hospital stay. And at 22, I bought 50 houses in a year, which ticked me off because it was too shy of one a week. But that changed my life, because I realized that you can wholesale, you can do owner financing, you can, as Leo at 19 has done, we bought over $1 million worth of properties together in a few months' time. And that's the Midwest. California, that's one property, right? Where Leo lives. But that's in the Midwest, where houses are still not necessarily extremely expensive. And so as you begin to shift that objective, that mindset, and realize that we set out to create a company that brings in $30,000 a month, and it's really doable in this market. In fact, it's probably easier right now. At least it's a better position even than it was when I started. But as your listeners are, and as we are, as always learning, and as teachers, I always say we can make money or we can make excuses, but we can't make both.
That's right. That's right. I've found that when you get into real estate, there's this mindset of, man, if I just had the money to buy these properties, if I just had blank, 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 if I just had X. And what I found, Andrew, is that's so funny based on what you're saying, is oftentimes I get better deals when I'm tight on cash than when I actually have the cash. Because when I have the cash, it's like all of a sudden you get lazy, right? You overpay. You don't have to negotiate as hard. You don't have to do all those things. And so you're just like, oh yeah, we're good. Like, it'll work. And then all of a sudden it's not a good deal. And this one that you bought 3 years ago, you didn't, and it's like your best deal that you have.
Yes. Because
you didn't have any money. You had to negotiate the terms. And so, guys, I second what Andrew says is, there's always a reason not to do something, right? There's always a reason to sit on the sidelines, but what an opportunity at a time we have to get in the game, right? I've heard it said it's the easiest time in the history of the world to become a millionaire, right? It's the easiest time in the history of the world to become a millionaire. And part of that is getting in the game, educating yourself, sharpening who you are, and thinking, man, long-term, what do I want? So Andrew, so you guys are buying houses. You're buying them all over the country, right?
Yeah.
Midwest, elsewhere. From your side, I imagine you weren't always there, right? You weren't always, showing other people how to build the system. You weren't always buying everywhere. Like, take me back, right? Me and you, I think, started at the same age. In real estate, right? We were both 22. But take me back to, like, how did you start this journey, and what was that inside your belly that kind of made you choose, man, real estate's the path for me, bro?
Yeah. So it was kind of one of those things where I was raised in the country. There was a town of 400 people.
400? Yeah, I thought I grew up in a small town. I grew up in 10,000, and
that's a big city for me.
There you go.
And on the farm on 35 acres, and a pastor's kid, and I was raised in an environment, where I worked hard, and I thought you work hard to get ahead, right? One day you can make good money. And I was 21, and I encountered the health challenges that I previously mentioned, and I was Googling, I was like, we'd worked on a house that somebody was flipping, and it got my wheels turning. I was like, oh, there was like one flip house in the whole city, but we worked on it. So we worked on this house, someone's flipping, and what would it look like to get on the other side of this? So I started Googling, how to buy houses. And I thought, well, maybe if, one day I never made over $30,000 a year, if I save up long enough, maybe I can one day buy a rental property and start building a portfolio. And I heard a radio ad from my friend and now friend and mentor, Ron LeGrand. And it said, you can buy houses with no money or credit. I was listening to talk radio, and it was like the answer to my prayer, like the voice of God just spoke. And so I grabbed the phone and I called to get the free book and CD and just placed shipping. And of course, by the time I got off that call, it wasn't but a couple of days, I got a phone call and I borrowed the money to get my first live seminar.
Nice.
And in April, that was in February, in April, I found myself in Atlanta, Georgia at a live seminar. And at that first live seminar, I got a wholesale deal and it made me $3,000. And that rocked my world. Oh my goodness.
Proof of concept, right? When you get that money, it's not that it's $3,000. It's that, holy crap, I can do this and make this work. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And now, of course, looking back, it's like, the same amount of work to get a $30,000 payday as it is a $3,000 or even more. But you look at that and you realize that, no longer is my time attached to, if I work 10 hours today, I can make a couple $100. Now it's attached to, if I get a good deal, I can make unlimited money. And that was the shift for me. And I said, this is it. And I just started going crazy.
So back up. So you're saying at this point, it's not time for money.
Correct.
It's, if I can find the right vehicle that is valuable enough, I can trade that for whatever money, that value I bring to the table.
Absolutely. And
so what did that do to you? Like, I imagine, was it like you were in your own zone? Like what happened at that moment? Like where did that send you?
Well, and for me, it was that shift from hours for dollars, from maybe even bidding a construction job one day that I can go do myself and, maybe double or triple my revenue, my income, to realizing that it is all about finding a deal. It's all about finding, as you said, a vehicle that can take me there. People are buying stuff every day, and people commonly say, become a millionaire, find 1 million people to pay you $1 for something, right? Well, that's cool, except that's a lot of stuff. And I'm not an inventor, unfortunately. But something I can do is find somebody who's doing something that works. It's not complicated. It doesn't require me having a bunch of money, bunch of credit, bunch of experience. And I can duplicate that. And that was the breakthrough for me. And Leo, I know you got some more to add on the mindset. Jump in and talk a little bit about that mindset shift for us.
Yeah, every day we have mindset shifts, and as we go throughout these journeys and lessons, right, we get knocked down, we pick ourselves up, and when that happens, while you're picking yourself up, you realize the lesson that came about, right? And we use that every single day to train our team to help duplicate that process, because even our team, they go through ups and downs, but we go through them first, typically, as the leaders, right? We go through them first, and we're able to teach them this lesson. And I think that's something that we'll go into a little bit as well, like how we train our team, how we create those duplicatable systems by teaching our team, exactly what we've done so they can continue to train the people under them. But the mindset is just so important as you go into this business, as you dive into any of these type of ventures, because it's hard, it's difficult, right? But what I realize is that I stopped telling myself it's hard. I stopped telling myself that it's such a hard venture to get into. But it's more just about the consistency and discipline, right? A lot of people listen to these podcasts to get a little bit of spark of a motivation and to learn what to do. And that's perfect, right? I don't think it's so great to just look for that motivation to get you up in the morning, to get you to take that next task. I think that you should create the structure in your life that allows you to do it without motivation.
Dude, Leo, what you're saying is so powerful, because I found in my tenure, right, as an investor, the hardest thing is the mind game. The hardest thing is the mind game, and the discipline to show up when you don't feel like showing up, right? Is so, and creating that repetition and that repetition and that repetition. I was in Ireland during COVID, actually. and went over there for 3 months. We decided to take and get some Airbnbs while everything was 70% off. And I read the book for the first time called Atomic Habits. And, at the beginning of the book, it talks about he gets smashed in the face with his baseball bat, and then he's laying in the hospital for months, and he had to relearn the habits of living again. And there's an element where as you get into real estate, if you learn the habits and you do the habits to be consistent, and then you don't let your mind get in the way, but you let it spark you forward, it will either be your biggest debilitating thing if you just constantly beat yourself down, like, what if this doesn't work? But if you can change it and say, dude, what if I get a $50,000 deal? What if I get this next thing? What if I go here? And that ability to adjust our mind, man, I can't agree with you more. That's super powerful. So that was actually, I want to go to Leo, right? And kind of on this. So Leo, are you still 19? How old are you?
I am. Yeah, I'm turning 20 exactly a month from today.
Dude, I envy you. You started 3 years earlier than me, and you got somebody on your team that's awesome. So walk me through your journey. What led you, to not only real estate, but then to partner up and do things with Andrew, right? What did this journey look like for you?
Yeah, so starting out, I grew up here in California, which I'm very blessed to grow up here in California, right? And my parents were working every day, and I saw how hard they were working, right? We weren't making a whole lot of money as a family, but my mom always made me feel rich. She always made me feel rich. She always would tell me, "Hey, you're abundant, you're rich. Don't worry about money as you grow up. Don't worry about it. You'll make all the money you can ever make." Right? I didn't know until now that we were actually pretty broke the whole entire time. And however, during that process, I always, had an idea of what life was going to be because my mom would always tell me like, "Hey, life's going to hit hard. Life's going to be hard. So prepare, right? But you got this." So ever since I was 10, I would look up how to make money at 10, right? How to make money at 11, how to make money at 12 every single year. And I would have new ideas. And I started selling candy when I was 10 years old. I would buy the big packs of Mexican candy down the street. And it would cost me maybe $7 to buy, 30 little the chamoy lollipops, if you know what those are. I would go to the street and I would go to my school and I would sell them for a $2, $3, $4 margin, right? And I was really good at selling them because I was able to get people to visualize, the taste of what this is gonna taste like, right? I was like, "Oh, just imagine how good your day is going to be once you get this lollipop." So I was selling at 10 and I did it. I would sell different things at 11, 12, 13. And I just kept learning how to sell. I kept learning how to flip, right? Until I was maybe 16, 17, I started my first business. It was a clothing company. And I learned how to build the business and the structures of a business. And while still doing flipping, I was flipping couches at the time. And here in California, you could buy a couch for $50. You can put it up, you can bring it to your house, clean it up, take some nice pictures, and flip it for $500. We would do that multiple times a week, and we would be making pretty good money. And at 17, when I was making, $3,000 cash, I was pretty good. I was learning all these mindsets of business and business structure. And I still felt the same where my mom would tell me, "Hey, you're abundant." I always felt abundant in those times. So I thought, okay, I'm doing couches, I'm flipping couches, and we're doing pretty well. How can I level up from that point? I've been leveling up my whole life. How can I level up from couches? I was like, let's try to flip a house. I don't know how to do it, but let's try to do it. So I took the money that I had used for couches, and I took that money and I went to Florida to my first ever real estate event, right? And I was actually pretty low on cash because I spent a lot in that time because I got pretty complacent for a period of time, right? And I spent that money. I went to Florida to my first ever real estate event, and there I actually met Andrew. And I was the little fish. I didn't know anything. I was scared. But on the plane, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And let me tell you, I used every single principle in that book, and people fell in love with me at that event, including Andrew. And, we built that connection from there.
Dude, That's awesome. That's super cool. And what a way of just preparing yourself, bro. Like, props to that, of going to the year and being like, I'm not just going to show up and see what happens, but let me prepare for this event and bring my best self to it, rather than just, let me just show up and see what happens. You just said you prepared, you showed up, and then everyone loved you. And it's like, yo, that's sweet. So Andrew, so you guys meet, you guys partner up, and I know you guys are doing multiple things, right? The market, interest rates are going up, right? People are a little nervous. You're creating these systems to buy houses. You're training people and teaching them, hey, we got to go creative. We got to put these systems in place. Don't let off the gas. Instead, this is when companies, take market share. This is when your opportunity is. What are you doing, both in your coaching and in your business, in your real estate business? What are you doing during this time to help people, not only with the mindset, but with the strategy? Like, what is your guys' primary focus when you're coming and saying, hey guys, this is the direction we need to go. This is what it looks like. Here, follow me down this path.
The brand we've created in the training world is RELU, Real Estate Level Up, because that's we are all about leveling up this first, this most important real estate, and everything around you, right? That means your connections, your relationships, your spheres of influence, and your money, and everything around you. And as I've been teaching people how to do real estate since 2017, and I always tell people, doing deals is, quite frankly, the simple part, the easy part. This is the toughest part for me. It's 21 and I'm broke and I'm never done a deal. And now here I am, got a $3,000 check. And then a few months later, I've done a dozen deals, 2015, and at 22, it's 50 deals. And I keep thinking that my life's going to be amazing, except the money is coming and the houses are coming, but this was still the same. And so I had to, and I guarantee you, if your income ever exceeds your mindset, it will soon come back down to your mindset. You have to grow both together.
Dude, that's powerful. Like, guys, go back and read that, because I've had that happen to me. All of a sudden, you're making a whole bunch, and you're like, dude, I shouldn't. What am I doing? Like, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden, it's like you start doing a little bit less. You're like, whoa, wait, I want that again. And it's like, no, okay, let's go back to school. Let's go back to school. Keep going, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, absolutely. And so what we have done, we find people all the time, as I mentioned, and, they've had real estate training, or they've been to some seminars, and, maybe even done a deal or some deals, but yet they keep experiencing this challenge of getting to that next level. And so what we really specialize in is taking people, whether it's, sometimes I tell people, they say, I need my first deal. I've had a lot of training. I just need my first deal. I say, well, you need a team. They say, well, I'm not ready for a team. And I said, well, you are, though, because that's what's going to help you get your first deal. I didn't even realize I was doing it when I started, but I got a virtual assistant who started dumping leads on my desk. I wouldn't pick up the phone and call them off the internet, but when they're on my desk every day, in my email, but, printing out on my desk every day, now I have no excuse. I'm like, oh, darn it. I paid for them. I got to call them. And so that's the process we walk people through when it comes to the real estate investing game, and how to level that up for people. Because again, guys, if you're in the real estate investing world and this market, or frankly, any business, now is the time to make hay. Now is the time. I am giddy for our VIP and mastermind students and how the successes they are experiencing, because their acquisitionists are bringing them deals. An acquisitionist is someone on the team who gets deals and brings them to the business owner, and their acquisitionist is bringing them deals right and left, growing their portfolios like crazy right now. Because even just a few months ago, somebody would post a house, $3,000 a few months ago with the rates, what I think get you $3,000 a month was like $700,000 or $750,000 property. You know what that means today? $450,000. 450. So somebody a few months ago had a $700,000 house on the market are going, oh, I'm just waiting on my 100 offers that are coming in. Now 70, 80% of those people who could qualify that $3,000 a month payment are now stuck buying 450 houses unless they know what we know, which is the creative finance. And so that comes back to that mindset shift to be what I call a CTG, a creative transaction genius.
There we go.
We live that in our community, in our business, and our life, and among our team.
So in this transition, right, from going from your level and leveling up, right, this idea of I'm not ready yet, right? It's almost like it's never the right time. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter what we're doing, it's, oh, I can't buy that yet. Oh, I can't do that yet. It's like, well, when the heck are you going to do it, right? It doesn't matter if you're 19 or you're 59, right? It's like, when are you going to do it? I want to unpack that a little bit because I found I'd be nervous. I shouldn't say I wouldn't because I did, but it was almost harder to pick up the phone for that first time and do it myself than telling your VA, hey, go get this and bring it to me. And them doing that action and then just bringing me some was like, oh, now I can call them, right? When I got my first executive assistant, I didn't realize how much of a blessing that was because I was like, all right, hey, I need job descriptions put out. And boom, boom, he would do it, right? Yeah. And then a couple years later, I let go of him and I was looking for another. And I'm like, dude, it took me like 3 days just to post the job description, right? Where he would just do it in 20 minutes. It's like, okay, sometimes you just need people to do that for speed so you can have the intake. And then once you got the intake, then it's like, oh, now I can make decisions based on what I want. Sometimes it's just that output and that uncertainty. You know what to do, but sometimes it's like, yo, can you do that? And then it makes it easier on you. Is that one of the elements that you're saying it takes to level up? Is not so much do that in every realm, but recognize your own limiting beliefs and figure out how can you make it easy for you to win?
Absolutely. You know, anytime one of our mastermind students takes out their own garbage, we show up at their door and beat them with a stick, because that's a minimum wage activity. Yeah. That is an activity that we jokingly say, you know, they are required to hire it done. Because if you're running a business as a business owner, your only job is in the early stages to do IGAs, income generating activities. And then as soon as that's you level up past that and you have a team, your only responsibility is to make decisions. That's it.
Becoming the reviewer instead of the doer. Like review and decide instead of doing it all.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. So Leo, I want to hear about a really bad decision you made. And along this journey, right? You go to this course, you partner up with Andrew. I mean, I would love to believe that everything always is rosy and grand and wonderful and the world just sets us on fire. But sometimes we make mistakes, right? And sometimes those mistakes end up being the biggest learning opportunity for us. So I want to hear about it. Like on this journey, what's something you did that you thought was disastrous? And what did you learn from that? And how did you come back, you know, being on this journey of becoming a real estate investor?
Yeah. So when I got into real estate and I started to learn everything and I learned with Andrew, right? One of the things that I made a mistake on was to think that everything has to be perfect the first run, right? I have to make it picture perfect. Every property has to be perfect. I have to make sure when I'm talking about me doing real estate, people think that, you know, it's a glory HGTV style. When I'm talking to people in my hometown, I'm doing real estate. They know that I want them to see HGTV. Oh, Leo's doing this. And I tried maintaining that. I tried maintaining the perfect lifestyle, and everything is doing awesome. And I'm a master at this. What I had to realize, what I had to humble myself fully and check my ego and really take a step back. And there's a couple of mistakes that we made, for example, with a couple properties that we had in the very beginning, right? When we first bought the property, and we made a few mistakes there, not really dialing in on the numbers and not dialing in on a strategy, right? We kind of just went in, and this is where Andrew kind of let me take a lead to try, as a mentor, like, hey, try it, see what happens, and let's fix it, right? And I went in and we bought a property, and I don't want to say all the numbers because I'm not a numbers person. I don't have it in my head, but we screwed up and bought a property where we're kind of stuck in it at the moment, and we couldn't find someone to get in there. We couldn't find a tenant, and something that happened to me was I thought everything had to be perfect, and I wanted it to be perfect. So I let that get to me, and I started to pull back. And instead of working as the hustler that I know I am to get someone in there, I sat on it and let it collect dust, because I just didn't want to accept the fact that it wasn't perfect, that I wasn't, this HGTV star real estate person.
It's funny because I realized I actually did a video on the YouTube channel. You guys can go check it out, on some of my biggest mistakes, at the beginning. And one of them was exactly that, was pretending to know it all. And maybe that's not what you're saying, but for me, it was like pretending I had to put on this front that like, yo, I've got all this. And I sacrificed authenticity and asking people for help when I needed it, right? I was afraid to ask for help because I didn't want people to see what I was doing. I wanted to, dude, I got this. Like, we're good. And I never asked for help from mentors, from people to come in and speak to that who had the answers. And I think there's this element of like, fake it till you make it. And the cool thing with wholesale and with real estate investing in the community is, dude, it's probably the most generous community out there, right? There's probably if you go to private equity, I promise you there's not mentors that you can just call up and you can pay, 10, 15, 20,000 bucks, and they're going to mentor you through private equity. Like, they're not going to do that. They're going to be like, yo, get the hell out of here. Right. Yeah. Real estate is such a unique aspect where you can ask for help and people will guide you along the way. And, I really like that. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. Andrew, I'm going to give you the easy question. What's something you did really, really well and you're like super proud of over the last 10 years that, you took a risk, it panned out, it worked, and you kind of created a process around that that's like something you're super proud of?
Yes, that's that should be an easy question. Pretty hard on myself. I will say, making a decision to begin to build a cash flowing portfolio and just taking consistent winning action has been a very strong point of mine. Something that I realized, though, is that the thing that got you to where you are is a thing that will keep you from your next level. Ooh. And when I started buying houses, the thing that got me a bunch of deals was I started banging the phones and getting out to houses and signing contracts nonstop. The thing that kept me from leveling up was banging the phones and getting out to get contracts signed nonstop. And so as I began to shift that and realize that it is about building, and that's something that Leo is so good at, building a community and a culture, and he has massive social media following and all of that. I know we haven't got into that yet, but being very good at that as he is, that he's also helped me even create better in my team. I've been building teams for nearly a decade. And so getting good at really finding the right people, hiring them, training them, and getting the heck out of their way I no longer get on the phone, close deals, and get in my car and drive out and get contracts signed because I'm actually slowing the company down to do that. And so realizing that I must remove myself in order to make it better. And quite frankly, when you find the right people, this was a hard one for me to accept. When I find the right people, they do the job better than I do. So kind of getting over myself.
So what's something someone could do, right? Like, how do you implement that? Like, what steps did you have to take? Is it just taking the step and hiring someone? Is there any practicals you could help people going from working in their business to working on their business? What would you recommend? Like, someone's stuck in that gap, right? Where it's like, dude, I'm doing 2 or 3 or 4 deals a month, but gosh, I when I stop, it stops.
Yeah.
What's some practical stuff there?
So I had this limiting belief, and I'll throw it off to Leo after I say this. I had this limiting belief because I had found people one way. I had an office in Evansville, Indiana, and I went out and, a guy I went to church with who was in sales, I hired him and he come and was a, amazing dispositionist for me. And then I was in the community and I found somebody else at a business meeting and I hired them and that's how I was building team. I thought it had to be that way and no other way. Mm-hmm. And I could not envision having a team all over the world that I hop on Zoom and interact with, and they're closing deals from everywhere. Well, as you know, COVID kind of changed the way we do business. And I started locking up deals on Zoom. And I said, wait a second, I've been limiting myself for a very long time. And so, Leo, if you'll speak to a little bit of that step-by-step direction, because Leo is so amazing at finding people online. And that's the world in which we live.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that once you get over the mindset that I can't have a team or I can't outsource or I'm not deserving to lead a team, once you get over that negative belief, that limiting belief, you really start to grow and expand and flourish. And I learned that when I started one of my first companies when I was 18, my social media company, right? And I had so much work on my plate every single day, every single hour where I needed to outsource. That's where I first learned it, right? Because I did all the work 17 hours a day, almost just working every single day. And I needed to find my first person to take some of that off my plate or I wasn't going to survive really because I didn't have any time to do anything for my health. And when I did that, I went for a non-traditional route, right? And I say non-traditional because it wasn't what I was taught. It's not what is normally taught out there. I hired someone internationally, right? I hired someone internationally from the Philippines, a virtual assistant from the Philippines who took 90% of my work off of me. And they started running the whole entire company. And I was just like, wow, I was so confused. I was so lost for words because I got 15 hours of my time back. And I was just like, what is happening? And in the Philippines, right, for example, $5 is, I don't know how to calculate it, but it's a lot of money for them, right? Especially if they're making that per hour. And I didn't understand that either. So when I hired my first VA, my first personal assistant, executive assistant, they took off so much work off my plate. And I was like, what? Okay, let me just hire another person, see how much more that takes off my plate. And eventually the whole business was being run for me. And again, I was the reviewer. All I had to do was manage them and do what I do best. Right now I have my 16, 17 hours back to go work on other things or to scale and build this business. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest thing for me. And I could talk a little bit more on attracting those type of people if you'd like.
That's powerful, man. And so guys, as you're going through this and you're thinking, especially if you're like, man, I'm doing so much, like I'm just exhausted. Like I'm working all this. I quit my job and got into real estate so I could have more free time. And it's actually sucked up more of my time. Like if you want to scale back, this is a great strategy. Go back and listen to what Leo just said, because this is an amazing opportunity for a fraction of the cost than what is the traditional route of hiring someone who comes into your office and Now you got to do a W-2, and now you got to pay them a salary, and now you're emotionally attached to them, and you're like, man, I got to make sure I take care of them. And then you don't know if you like, should I fire them? Should I not? All of that stuff comes when you do that. There's another route. There's another way. So go back and listen to what Leo said, because if you can walk down that path and really finding someone, whether it's one of us or whether it's, someone in your space to help you go down that journey, I think that's awesome. So you talked a little bit about social media. What are you doing on social? Unpack your social for me.
Yeah, when I started to post on social media about maybe 3 years ago, I just put it out to. I started as a personal trainer as well. I was doing so many different things. I was just an entrepreneur, hungry, looking to do absolutely everything. So I was personal training because I had just started working out at the time.
Nice.
And I was posting that type of content out. And sooner than later, I started to post more self-development content out, more motivation. And it took off. It did really, really well on TikTok. The algorithm picked it up. And, I went from 0 to 600 million views in 45 days.
Wow.
So that rocked my world. It changed my view of everything, right? But on the outside perspective and hiring and finding people and bringing this back into real estate and how to build your team, I realized how many people are in need of leaders and how many people are in need of your company and want to work for you, sometimes for free. Actually, it was 85, 90% of them was like, hey, I'll work for free for you.
Yeah.
Right? And when I was able to remove myself from that situation and look at, the hundreds of thousands of people who were saying, hey, I really need a job right now. I'm struggling. I want to learn real estate. Can you teach me? Right? That's when I was able to figure out how to give those people an opportunity. And I would put out just a really simple post on Facebook. And actually, I have zero presence on Facebook, like absolutely zero. But I use Facebook just so the people who have no social media presence or even don't have social media in general, but have Facebook can understand that this works for you. I posted on Facebook like, hey, I'm looking to hire someone. I'm looking for someone to join my team, right? I got maybe 20, 30 people saying, I would work for you. Hey, can you interview me? And that's where I found my first person there, right? And as you can imagine, I did those same efforts on TikTok and Instagram, and I had thousands of people saying, hey, I want to work for you. Can I work with you? I'll work for free, all this stuff. And I just utilized that new mindset and realization and lead magnet and brought it into Andrew's world and his real estate company. And we've built an amazing, amazing team.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So before we go into our next segment, which I have a rapid fire segment to finish off this episode and just kind of like a rapid segment of value. Andrew, you kind of dropped it at the beginning. You said, you came under Ron LeGrand, you got his course, and I know you work with him now. And if you guys don't know Ron LeGrand, just look him up. The guy is he's one of the OGs in the space. He kind of created and really made it a thing for people in real estate to be willing to share the knowledge to help other people learn this business to create freedom for themselves. And so he's kind of the OG in the space, right? And so, Andrew, what did coming under Ron LeGrand, like what did paying for the seminar, paying for his course, and really just getting him as a mentor, what did that do for you? Like, why is mentorship so important?
Well, I was, as I mentioned, 21 and broke. And when I went to the seminar that I'd borrowed the money to get to, I think it was $6,000, and then they gave me some discounts. So it was like $5,000 and something. And when he dropped the offer for me to buy a program for $34,000, nearly a decade ago, I was like, I need this. I want this. And there's no way that's over a year worth of income for me. And it was at that moment I said, as people of wealth, and I didn't even know this at the time, we say yes now and then we figure out how. And I said, they went to the back table and I said, guys, I want to do this. And they said, well, how are you going to pay for it? And I said, I don't know. they said, well, can you put a deposit down? And I was like, I guess I have like $1,800 left on this one credit card. And so I did that. And then I started calling family and friends and moving heaven and earth. And they worked out a payment plan for some of it. And I jumped in with both feet and said, I'm in. And it was a program that's set up for a weekly call. Mm-hmm. And every week on that call, I was getting on the call, and I maybe just needed somebody to remind me that it was real, because, you know, I quit like 8 times a day for the first few weeks.
Yeah.
And I would get on that call, and that was my breath of fresh air to get me through the, you know, that was my entrepreneurial church for the week.
There you go.
To get me the drink of water I needed to survive. And I say that because it was that important to me.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that was the make or break, because had I not had that, I couldn't afford to go to a seminar every month at the time. I couldn't afford to travel, you know, like I now am blessed to do. I couldn't afford to have all the help that I'm now surrounded by. I didn't have a team. I didn't have, you know, my amazing partner, Leo, at the time. Right. Of course, at that time, I guess, Leo, you would have been like 11. So, but as that happened, that was the life flow to me, staying involved long enough to get not only 3,000, but then a subject to deal, and then another deal, and then another deal, and actually see it working, and start building my cash flow and like change my entire world and financial future for myself, my family, my team, and everyone else around me.
Guys, go back and re-listen to that, because what it did was real estate, I like to say, is 3 things. It's knowledge, it's network, and it's getting in front of leads. And sometimes you need to get around the right network, and they'll show you the path, and not just the path of action that you need to take, but the things to learn that can skyrocket you. That what took them 10 years, you can learn in 8 months, right? There's this old, I can't remember what country it's from, but it's an old saying that says, you know, a father walked 10 miles so his son could walk 5. And his son walked 5 miles so his son could buy a Cadillac. And his son bought a Cadillac so his son could buy a Mercedes. And then his son who bought a Mercedes, and then he had a Mercedes and his son bought a Ferrari. And it's this idea that, yeah, it took the 10 miles to learn, to learn and to grow to the point where he could do a little bit less and a little bit less. But imagine if the dad who walked 10 miles talked to the son who already knew what it took to buy a Cadillac, right? Think of the speed he could have been able to accomplish what he needed to in life. And that's the power of mentorship, is you can take what takes 10 years to learn and learn it in a fraction of the time. What took me a year to do, you could do in a month. And so that is the power of jumping in. So, all right, guys, I want to transition into our speed round. I feel like this time has just disappeared on us. I feel like we could talk for the next 4 or 5 hours. But at the end of these episodes, I like to do just a quick back and forth. And since there's 2 of you, I think what we're going to do is instead of me asking you the same question twice, we'll just round robin. All right. So, Andrew, I'm going to start with you. In the real estate business, and I think you're going to have an awesome answer for this, but in the real estate business, if you are on an island, you had 5 minutes once a week to take a phone call to see if your business was working and on the right track, what metric would you track in your business?
I'd ask for a profit and loss sheet. No, to me, there is one thing that matters above all else. And of course, I trained my team and all these things. And that is, on the buying side, how many sellers a day are they talking to? On the selling side, how many buyers a day are they talking to? That's the life flow of the business.
This business is about talking to other human beings that can sign a piece of paper to make you money. That's what this is about. Awesome. Leo, what book would you recommend someone who's either new or experienced read that is a real estate investor? What book should they read to level up?
Oh man, there's a ton. I'm always going to put a self-development book rather than a real estate book
Okay.
because I think that's 90% of it. I would have people read either The Slight Edge,
Ooh, that's a good one.
or I would go even deeper to have them read Meditations,
Okay. Yep.
which is a really, you know what? I wouldn't have new people read that. I would not have new people read that. I
Yeah.
would have people read um I would have people read The Slight Edge because that's so important.
So, guys, and Meditations is by Marcus Aurelius. If you guys don't know. And so The Slight Edge, this bookshelf up here with this little guy on this little stack of books, that's the best books that have changed my life. The Slight Edge is over on the far left side. So The Slight Edge is one of my top books as well. That's awesome. And then down here, that's actually Meditations, right there next to that little D&D character. So next, Andrew, what do you do to intentionally network and mastermind and level up in your own life?
For me, it's events. I go to every single high-level real estate event, and of course, it's changed over the years. In the last 12 months alone, I've spent over $150,000 on masterminds, being in rooms with high-level players, and I do that constantly. So it's getting into rooms with people who are at a higher level than I am, who I can help receive the tools, give to them, yes, and receive the tools that they are using in their business to, again, shortcut time.
That's powerful. And you actually answered the next question, which I'm going to ask Leo, is Leo, how much do you spend on personal development in a given year?
Yeah, I mean, I do everything I can to go out to events. I do everything I can to work on myself, whether it be the free methods, right? Like I'm in the gym every single day. I'm reading books every single time. I'm going through audiobooks every single day. But a lot of what I spend on was and is the mentorship that I get. You know, with Andrew, I've worked with him for the past 3 months, and I won't say what I spent, but I will tell you what I've gotten from it. We've built $1 million portfolio from it, and taking that leap to work with him was, you know, one of the most palm sweating things I've ever done before. But you know, it has paid off, you know, tremendously. And now we're partners in just about everything that we do on the real estate side. So it's paid off tremendously. So spend everything you can on personal development. That's a smart investment. You know, don't throw every single dollar you have, but do what's smart for you.
You know, in a time like this, those who sharpen themselves and bet on themselves are the ones who are going to win, right? If you're betting on a politician, or you're betting on the economy, or you're hoping the news, or like that stuff's not gonna help you. But if you invest in building skills, right? If you invest in something that is proven to make the most millionaires out of any other category, and you learn some of these small basic skills like how to evaluate a property, right? How to create a system where you can have constant leads coming your way and you can connect those to buyers. This is ways that I love even connecting with you guys who are doing this at a much higher level than I am. Like these are things that change people's lives. And so guys, really go back and take that seriously. And Andrew, you get the final question, and you can add on to it if you want. But if you lost everything you had today, right? If you were to just be completely wiped out, man, what would you do?
Well, the most important thing to me, and if I had to start over, I would absolutely focus earlier on this, on my mindset. And that is the key to the growth, because you can't, anything you invest in yourself, you know, investing in real estate is I consider a safe, secure, and awesome investment, but it's never returned me as high of a return as the money I invest in myself. And so the investment in myself is number one. So I would figure out how to get money to invest in myself, get around the right people. And number two, Since I know real estate, I had to get on the phone and start dialing.
Nice.
And ask the question like I mean it. Usually we buy with nothing down, okay? Because I'd have no other option.
Right. It's funny today. I was talking to a guy, $1 million property, and he's like, "Well, how much are you going to put into it?" And I was like, "Well, at the price point you're asking, nothing. If we come down, then we can talk about me bringing money to the table. But right now, you're asking for top dollar. And if that's the case, like I'm coming in and going to take over the payment." And he was like, "Okay." That's what he said, right? He's like, "Okay." Really, really good, guys. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time, being generous with just your knowledge and your resources to help people level up. If people wanted to reach out to you, Leo or Andrew, Andrew, let's start with you. If people wanted to reach out to you, like where can they find you? Where can they look you up? How do they get a hold of you? What do you got going on? If you don't mind just kind of sharing some of those details, that way they can reach out.
Yeah, so we have the real estate level up. So that's what Leo and I, the brand that we've built and are building together. So that's the main thing, reluevent.com. And I'm on Facebook, Andrew SCHLAG, TikTok, Drew SCHLAG, and YouTube, Andrew SCHLAG.
Awesome. Leo, what about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I love meeting people in person. So make sure to come out to Relu. It's RELU event.com. So we'll see a lot of you there. But if you want to connect with me, probably Instagram is the best way. It's ITS as in it's Leo Valentino. And then you can find me on TikTok as well at Leo Valentino 444.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Guys, this has been another episode of the Forge to Win podcast. There was so many amazing nuggets. Go back, rewatch it, and reach out to both of these guys. They will help you go to the next level in your real estate career. Until next time, thank you guys. Peace.